Well, let's look at some of the symptoms so that you can make your own spiritual diagnosis in your own life. The first one here is that a person with a hardened heart, they have a lack of love for Jesus Christ. You see, your heart, it's the seat of love in your life. And so we say things like, well, I love you with all my heart, and I give you my heart. And the first and the greatest commandment in the Bible tells us to love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, and your soul. And if that's the greatest commandment, if you don't do that, then you're the greatest of sinners. It's the greatest of sins, is to not love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. Well, another symptom of a hard heart is when the spiritual disciplines in your life, when they just become routine, just something you do because you have to do them. When your passion for prayer cools, when it becomes something that you have to do instead of you want to do, you're in trouble. When the delight in reading and studying the Bible becomes just another task that you have to do, you're in trouble with your heart. Another symptom of a hard heart is indifference to lost people. I mean, maybe in times past, when you thought of somebody dying without Jesus, it grieved you. It grieved your heart. But now it doesn't faze you to hear about friends and acquaintances when they die in unbelief. I mean, you used to be zealous to win a lost person to Christ, but now your zeal is gone. If that's true, you got a problem with your heart. Another symptom of a hard heart is the ability to sin and it not bother your conscience. Hebrews chapter 3, verse 13 tells us to exhort one another daily while it is called today, lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. So what I'm doing today, people, is I'm exhorting everybody here and everybody who's listening and watching, I'm exhorting you while it's today to not be hardened, not let your heart be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. Another symptom of a hard heart is a critical spirit toward God and His work. And Mark chapter 3, Jesus heals a man on the Sabbath. And the Pharisees get all up in the air about that. And it says that in verse 5 that Jesus was angry and grieved because this was evidence of their hardness of heart. Jesus is grieving over the Pharisees' hardness of heart. Think about that. Your heart doesn't just suddenly get hard. It happens gradually. I mean, a lake doesn't just, bam, freeze. It turns to ice overnight, Wet cement, it doesn't just solidify immediately. It's wet and then it turns into concrete after a few hours. It happens gradually. People's hardness of heart is such a subtle sin. It's happening in your life and you don't even notice that it's creeping in. It's like the hands on a clock. I mean, you can't see them move, but man, that clock moves. It sneaks up on you, takes you by surprise. So do you have a hardened heart today? If you do, then you need to listen to what God's Word says about it.